Hey everyone, today the video is dedicated to Scrum Masters or those who are aspiring to be a Scrum Master. I have to mention I will have another video coming up, and that is mostly for those who are hiring the Scrum Masters or who are considering to hire Scrum Masters, have that role in their team construct. But today we are mostly looking at what does it mean to be a Scrum Master? Like what sort of characteristics, mindset, and attitude are we talking about, or are we looking for in a Scrum Master? So when you talk about a lot of people, the first thing that they go is, Scrum Master, the guy who assigns us tickets. I want to get this out of the way first thing during this video. The primary responsibility of a Scrum Master is not assigning tickets. It's not jumping on Jira or Azure DevOps or whatever tool you are using and assign like stories and tasks and stuff to your team members. That's not their job. So just to sort of get that out of the way. There are lots of responsibilities for Scrum Masters, characteristics that they need to sort of grow into. But the main one that I want to talk about today is Scrum Master as coach. But instead of looking at a bunch of terms and concepts, I want to let you feel it in an actual example, right? So I'll give you an example, and I'll try to cover what does it mean to be a coach in that context. And the second aspect that I want to focus on today is servant leadership. Now, servant leadership is such a fluffy term. Again, if we just look at a bunch of bullet points, what defines a servant leader, you're going to have a really fuzzy understanding about what does it mean to be a servant leader. Instead, we want to look at a particular example, a real example. All right, let's move on. So here's the example. You are working with a highly skilled and talented team of individuals. They're data engineers, data warehouse developers, across development and testing, obviously, as well as business analysts and product owners. That's pretty much a typical Scrum team, but the context is, a data warehouse project. They're not very experienced in Agile though, so they're sort of, perhaps they just started their Agile journey. They have never been in like a Agile or a scaled Agile construct, or if they have been, perhaps the practices haven't been very mature. So that's where they are in their Agile journey. And the context is we're trying to deliver this data warehouse and reporting solution in 2-week iterations. So 2-week sprints, pretty typical. We are trying to deliver this data warehouse and reporting solution. Now, you start working with the team as a Scrum Master, and you find out that the team velocity is next to zero, right? The team are not really, delivering as per the definition of done. Each story takes some 3 to 4 weeks to be developed, right? And that's just the development side of it. So roughly 1.5, 2 sprints just to develop a story. And by the time it goes to test, you lose 2 precious sprints. Not to mention, product owner reports several issues, gaps, when they actually see the report. And these reports, what we're talking about is like dashboards or visual reports where they're looking at a chart, for example, or a number of charts, and the data is sourced from the data warehouse, obviously. So everyone's frustrated. Team morale is not great. And you see a bunch of really stressed stakeholders, team members, product owner, because obviously when the team doesn't hit the ground running, it's not the best place to be. How do you approach solving this problem? How do you work with the team? to coach them? How do you lead them as a Scrum Master? Have a think about it. I want everyone who's watching this video to have a think about it and sort of try to digest it and go, okay, here is how I'm going to approach it. All right, so what are the problems here? Let's start with the problems. As a Scrum Master, you need to figure out how you want to approach this problem. But obviously, first you need to have an understanding of the problem and keep in mind that you are not there to solve the problem. You are there to coach the team to solve the problem. So you're not solving the problem for them. You're supporting them to figure out how to solve it, basically. So sprint outcomes, from sprint outcomes perspective, we know what are the facts. We know that we don't have a shippable product, right? We perhaps have some ETL data pipelines into the data warehouse that are sort of half cooked. And then we have reports where the product owner is reporting a lot of issues about those reports. She's reporting gaps. The development cycles are really long, 3 to 4 weeks. So those are sort of the facts here. Now, what should the Scrum Master do in this situation? So first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, Scrum Master should coach the team to solve the problems. Again, Scrum Master is not solving the problem for them. Scrum Master has to find ways to work with the team and help them find where they're going wrong and fix it. Now, we typically do this by asking strong questions, but strong questions should have a context. And the context is those agile principles and the ways of working, basically. So in an agile context, the first thing that you want to do is you want to have working software by the end of that 2-week sprint, right? So some of the strong questions that you want to ask is to encourage the team to start thinking about, okay, how do we make sure, what are some of the ways that we can sort of explore to deliver the product, whatever the product is in this case, the data warehouse solution as well as the reporting solution in 2-week sprints. How can we make sure we have a working report, right, by the end of, or at least a slice of a report by the end of the 2-week cycle? Coaching also includes emphasizing the Agile Manifesto and the 12 principles of Agile development. So in the context of the problems that we are observing, right, we want to make sure on one side the team understand what does it mean to be Agile, right? What does it mean to have working software, right? And on the other hand, comes those strong questions to encourage them to think about how we can sort of move towards the goal, which are those agile principles. And we want to look at what does it mean to lead by example and also be a servant leader. All right, so here's one example. To find out the root cause of one of these problems, we do a quick 5 why workshop. Now, 5 why is just one tool for root cause analysis, and you can use any tool you want, right? You can use a fishbone diagram. You can do whatever you want as long as it helps you to reach to the end goal, which is identifying the root cause with the team, helping the team, facilitating it, and helping the team identify that root cause, and then figuring out together what we can do about it. So we know team velocity is low. Why? When you speak with the team, you realize that The backlog includes some really big stories, right? So the stories are too big. For example, one story would involve standing up several data pipelines to integrate data sources from to integrate consolidate data from many different data sources, and it also involves actually delivering the report in the form of a dashboard or some visual components in a report. And the business analysts, you also find out that the business analysts, now why are they too big? So you start to dig deeper. You keep asking why. Why is it too big? So I just mentioned one of the reasons, several data sources, and it spans over the data warehouse and the reporting and all facets of it. So you realize the business analysts are documenting the A to Z across all these things, the whole data mapping that is required, all the data sources, everything that is required for that report is documented into a Confluence page. And that Confluence page is massive, like loads and loads of data and information in there. And you also realize each report may have several data sources, as I mentioned earlier. So these are some of the observations. As you dig deeper, you find out that assumption that the root causes that we have to, the team are making an assumption that we have to deliver a single report in a sprint, and that's obviously not achievable. So what do we do, right? How can we approach this? So throughout those conversations with the team, you start looking at the context of this project and what options you have. So in this case, we have like the pipeline of work. You may remember in your basic agile training, we refer to vertical slices, and a vertical slice spans through all facets of a software product, right? So you go, if it is, for example, user interface, backend, database, whatever, we want to deliver a full vertical slice to our customers, right? Because that's the only way you can deliver working software to your customer, right? If you don't do the user interface and do the, for example, the data side of things or the backend side of things, you won't have a working software, would you? So this situation is fairly similar in that you have several source data sources, and you have your staging layer, and then you have your data warehouse layer, and then you have your visual reports. So think of visual reports as your user interface. Data warehouse and staging is sort of the pipeline that prepares the data for those reports. And then there are your external data sources. What we want to do is we want to make sure whatever we deliver spans all those layers and is actually a working software, right? Now, the question that you would ask from the team is, if delivering a full report with all its sort of bells and whistles, like you may have multiple diagrams in a dashboard, you may have sliders to sort of filter the data, right? And multiple filters that the users can play with, several components in a report. And then on top of that, you have to consolidate several data sources that are required for that report. And you also have to build the data pipelines into the data warehouse. It's a massive task. It's not doable, even for a single report, not even in a 2-week sprint, not even in a 3-week sprint, right? So the team is convinced that's not possible. So what do? We narrow down the scope of a single story. Instead of going, okay, a single story is a single report, because let's narrow it down to something that is working software, but is much smaller. So one of the options that the team offers is, how about the go one data source by one data source. So making sure we pick an element in that report that relies only on one data source and not on many data sources. And start with that, right? Those sort of simple elements in the report, pick them up one by one, and stand up the data pipeline and deliver. Now, even if that is too big, can we narrow it down even further? Can we consider having enabler stories that enable us to transition data quite faster? And I'll cover enabler stories in other videos if you're interested to know more, but I'll try to insert some links in the description of this video to help you understand more about enabler stories. Long story short, that is one of the options that the team considers, right? So you are working with the team to realize that their underlying assumption that they have to deliver this whole thing, this massive document that they put together for a single report, may not be the granularity that they are after. By the end of first sprint, for example, they may just have one chart in a single dashboard with one very simple filter, right? And that's it. And then as they go through the sprints, they keep bringing in more data sources. They keep adding more filters, more diagrams, and it keeps getting more and more complicated. The data warehouse data gets richer and richer. All right, so we talked about the coaching aspect of it and how you approach it. Now, what does it mean to be a servant leader? Now, what is the situation here? Let's look at another situation. You realize business analysts in the team are not very comfortable on how to write small stories with testable acceptance criteria. One of the problems you identify is that the testers don't have clear acceptance criteria to test to, and therefore, when the when the story goes to the product owner reports a lot of issues that are not really documented in the form of acceptance criteria in those stories, right? So everyone now is stressed. How do we do it? How do we fix this problem? The tester needs clear, testable acceptance criteria. The business analysts don't quite know, because they don't have that experience. They don't quite know how to write testable acceptance criteria. For example, in BDD format, that is typically the recommended approach, right? So they're stressed and they're not really performing to their capacity. You're in this situation where the tester is also very uncomfortable, and there's a lot of anxiety in the team. Now, what does a servant leader do in this situation? Now, let's say Scrum Master organizes a session with those business analysts and product owner. Now, testers can join as well, and starts preparing some examples on how to write small stories that are like with testable acceptance criteria in BDD format. Now, you may get help within your organization if there are people who are good at this, if there are projects where other business analysts or more senior business analysts have done this in a similar context, and you just use those, like get help from them to show them such examples. But as a Scrum Master, the more experienced you are, the more tools you have available to be able to coach the team by giving them examples and writing testable acceptance criteria in BDD format, if you know how, and if you know how to do it in different contexts, that's a tool in your tool set that you can use to work with your team and to sort of coach them, work with them, and support them when they're trying to tackle this. All right, so we look at those examples together. Now, the session should have a very positive, reassuring, and relaxed vibe. And this is super important. That positive attitude from yourself, and also making sure that it's not a one-way traffic, right? So it's like collaboration. And the tone is, we all understand the problem. We want to fix it together. We are confident we can fix it together, and it's relaxed. It's not like hierarchical, you have to fix this or else. That sort of tone. Scrum Master emphasizes that he or she is there for them all the way. So this is super important. You have to make sure the team understands that your help is not a one-off, like sort of ad hoc help that sort of stops at that point and doesn't continue, right? You need to make sure the team understands that you are going to walk alongside them and help them grow in the context of this project. While they're delivering, they learn more and they grow. Scrum Master shares resources explaining how to write testable acceptance criteria. So again, you keep supporting them. You have to find other ways to support them if they're still uncomfortable. Scrum Master makes sure the team understands the benefits and the goal, right? So this is super important. As a team, we decided this is important, right? This is something that we gotta do. Why? Because as a team, we did root cause analysis and found that one of the reasons we're coming across all these issues is that testers don't have clear acceptance criteria, and therefore product owner thoughts and like what is okay versus what is not okay is not really nicely documented into those stories, right? So as a team, we come to that conclusion. And Scrum Master focuses on the growth and well-being of the resources and explains this as part of their agile journey, right? As it's important for resources to know that it takes time to improve, and you take early on, you take baby steps, and as you go, you get better and better, both as an individual, right, and also as a team. And you start having fun together, right? Once you do something really well, you start having fun. All right, I hope this has been helpful. There are lots of other examples that we can put together. Obviously, the list that I suggested is not exhaustive in terms of how you can approach such problems, how you can coach. You can have your own way of doing things. But at the end of the day, it's important to know that your team know you as someone who is at that level and is there for them all the way and always, and you're not their boss, right? You are their fellow team member and ongoing supporter. Thank you so much. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe and leave comments for me. Obviously, this is an interesting topic. So if you are a Scrum Master, or if you are aspiring to be a Scrum Master and found this helpful, or even disagree with some of my thoughts, don't hesitate to leave comments on this. One last comment: I will have another video upcoming for those who are hiring Scrum Masters or aspiring to hire Scrum Masters, and some of the factors that they want to consider. Thank you.